What's going on, guys? My name is Tychus. The health patch is finally live on these servers for Marauders. SIG has also put out a tease at the end of the patch notes, which I will get into later on in this video. With the patch note comes a bunch of additions, optimizations, balancing, bug fixes, and much more. If you want to read the full patch notes, I will have the link in the description below. But I wanted to take the time to go over some of the major points in the patch notes, at least in my opinion. First off, we now have the addition of the two new weapons, the Webley Revolver and the EM2 Battle Rifle, of which the revolver is now purchasable by the Pirate Faction leader. Both the Penal Colony and the Navy Outpost now have depots in them, overall increasing the loot value of those maps. The Sten has received additional attachments with a muzzle brake, a drum mag, and a wooden stock. The Sten seems to have also gotten a complete overhaul as well, as the model has changed to this right here. It's a more wooden version of the Sten, and it no longer has a buttstock, and it has a wooden look to it versus the older full metal version. Moving along, a lot of changes mentioned in my previous videos have been implemented. New contract missions, improved map cycling, breacher pod kills now register as a marauder kill, FOV slider, and toggle lean have been added as an option. The last couple of interesting mentions here are that most weapons have a larger spread and recoil while jumping, which would make sense and is probably there to stop the jump shot spamming gameplay and keep things a lot more grounded. Another mention is that Navy commandos are now able to spawn in any raid location except for the Navy outpost. This is a very welcome change as it adds more enemy dynamics into the raids, and it also help out with the certain task where you need to kill the Navy commandos as well. Last thing that was mentioned here was that a siren alarm can now be heard when a breach occurs inside a ship. I haven't had a chance to test this yet, but my guess is that you are able to have or at least hear a audio cue along with the visual cue of being breached by other players when you're inside of your ship. It's definitely going to be interesting to see if this alarm will happen inside of the merchant ship as well as the capital ship when players breach them while you are inside. If you guys have experience with that, please let me know in the comments below. But anyways, moving on to the juicy part of the patch notes. Here we have balancing changes. As mentioned previously, the capital ship and the merchant ship have had their spawn chance increased. Headshot multiplier is now 3x versus the old 3.5x. Additional airlocks for all maps have been added, and there was a mention of redistribution for the asteroid mine for the airlock specifically. This is to help alleviate the airlock rushing that was happening, and then also the airlock busy when everyone enters the station at the same time. So definitely a welcome change. It's going to be interesting to see where the airlocks are going to be located now. Crafting has seen some changes and additions as well. The Sten suppressor now requires a fabric to craft. The wooden stock for the Sten uses junk scrap. Now we actually have a use for junk scrap, which is actually kind of nice. Lower tier recipes, crafting timers have been reduced, which is nice. It's kind of weird that it takes forever for some of these crafts, but that's nice. Also, you can no longer purchase buttstocks and suppressor from traders. They are only available through crafting. I mean, overall, I think that's a good change for crafting. It definitely makes the materials and crafting a lot more useful and a lot more valuable in the end, because it just doesn't make sense that if you can just buy everything from the traders, right? You level up the traders and just buy everything from them. So there's no point in crafting, basically. So, and there's no point in keeping the materials as well. So overall, I think that's a good change. Moving on to the armor and helmets. All armor and helmets have received a 20% buff, except for the leather jerkin, the civilian helm, and the pouch rig. You can see here that the heavy stall helm is now a level 12 instead of a level 10 that it was before. Also, the plate rig is now level 9 instead of level 8. Along with this comes a 15% buff to the heavy caliber weapons in the game, with the exception to the SVT-40, the Johnson, and the Mosin Obrev. The Well Rod has also received a damage nerf to 36 from its 40 damage. Cameron, the lead developer at SIG, did mention he wanted to improve the weapons in this tier to make them feel a little bit more impactful. You know, thinking of the STG more specifically, right? 762. It's very interesting to see how this will affect the time to kill in the game. I do personally think that the SVT, the Johnson, and the Obrev was a little too strong, right? Was tuned a little bit too high. So overall, it's a nice change. Definitely going to increase the TTK a little bit, especially with the lower tier weapons. Gonna have to wait and see how that turns out for, especially for the higher tier weapons. It looks like there are some weapon tuning for the SMGs as well. Overall, durability has been lowered and the recoil has been increased for SMGs. The M45K is the only SMG to receive a damage buff, which is kind of nice. The Klob Scorpion is now exclusively a burst fire weapon with a 24 round capacity versus its old 20 round. Now I know that the Klob was a burst gun back in the pre-alpha phase, I believe. So I guess they're going back to just turning it into a exclusive burst fire weapon, which is going to be interesting to try out as well because I actually kind of like the Klob, and it's going to be interesting to play. Moving on to shotguns. Shotguns have received changes to their spread patterns. Over long distances, the spread will be much larger, which makes sense. The Terminator and the Trench Gun now have a tighter spread. Liberator and Jackhammer will have a medium spread. And finally, the double barrel shotgun with its highest spread. I haven't personally have much experience with shotguns in Marauders. They are, however, my favorite guns in all shooters. But those of you who have a lot of experience with shotguns, let me know how these changes affect the shotguns, whether they are good or bad. Okay, so the rest of the notes are pretty much optimization, bug fixes, and additional sounds being added to the game. Again, if you want to read the full patch notes, link is in the description below. But let's talk about the big tease that SIG put out at the end of the patch notes. So SIG put out a teaser trailer for the first boss code-named Ace to be added to the game, and he is coming next month in December. Now, we've known that a boss has been in the works previously, but we know he is coming out very soon now. It's going to be interesting to see how Ace will be implemented in Marauders. You know, will he have a bunch of bodyguards with him like Reshala from Tarkov or Gluhar from Tarkov? Will he have a chance to spawn in all the maps? Honestly, in my opinion, I think it would be really cool if he could spawn in his own spaceship that is fully kitted out with rocket turrets and flat cannons, etc., right? I think it would definitely make the space portion of the game a lot more interesting. You know, it would provide a much more intense like spaceship phase of the raid versus being inside of the space station. We don't know, right? Who knows? Only time will tell. That's all we can say, but let me know what you guys think. You know, let me know what you guys think about the boss. What would you guys like to see implemented for Ace himself? But anyways, there you have it, folks. Some of the major changes for the new health update. Overall, I'm very excited to see the devs at SIG put out more content and work on balancing changes for Marauders. Honestly, can't wait to jump in and experience the changes for myself in the game. Also, if you guys have noticed any other changes not mentioned here in the patch notes, as there could possibly be some stealth changes, or if I just missed anything that was worth mentioning here, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Also, let me know your thoughts on the patch notes as well. I wish you the best of luck in your raids, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.